Denver Water and Denver Public Schools are partnering in an effort to identify sources of lead within their facilities.
So we're conducting early morning water sampling to make sure that the water that we're providing to staff and students meets EPA drinking water standards and is not a contributing source of lead to kids within our district.
The really good news on this whole thing is Denver Water and Denver Public Schools are taking a very proactive approach to work together to identify sources of lead so that we can inform the students and the family, and people can make decisions on where we need to mitigate lead within that facility.
Well, we know that lead is detrimental for kids. Certainly the last few months there's been a lot of media attention and stories about Flint, Michigan, and lead in water and lead in schools. There's no requirement to test, so we just want to make sure that we're providing the best water that we can for our staff and students.
There is no safe level of lead, but the most important thing that you can do as a homeowner or a school or business is get a test done. Lead is not present in the water that leaves our treatment plants. It's also not in the water that moves through our distribution system. Lead can enter into homes or buildings through plumbing that contains lead.
Older pipes, older brass fittings, they can have lead in them, and as the water sits in them or moves through the system, it can sometimes leach that lead out into the water. So we're visiting each school first thing in the morning at 5 a.m. before most staff are in, definitely before students are in, and pulling a sample from the water that's been sitting in the lines all night so that we have highest lead level that's in the faucet, and then sending that in for analysis to Denver Water. All sites will be tested, but we've prioritized the list to sample older buildings and schools that serve our youngest populations first, because again, they're at the highest risk.
They will then bring them to our water quality laboratory where our staff will analyze somewhere around 3,300 lead samples. At Denver Water, we have trained experts that run these analyses on a daily basis. It's something that's pretty routine from an analytical standpoint for us to run. So we can do it, we can help Denver Public Schools.
Samples come back to the lab, and if we have one that's above the action level, which is 15 parts per billion of lead, we're going to take that fountain out of service, and then we will either replace the fixture to see if we can find out what the cause of lead is, or we'll install a filter on the line so that any lead that's in there will be filtered out. You may see the newer water fountains that have the bottle filling station, and those have a filter actually built into it. On the back side, it's got a sensor on it that tells you when it's time to change it. On some of the other ones we've done, you'll see like kind of a canister or cylinder that's installed on the water line that's feeding the fountain, and so we'll try to change those at least once a year or every 18 months. So as we receive results for each of the schools, we'll be posting those on the website, and so parents in the community can go and look at those. We'll notify the schools as well. I don't expect to find high levels of lead, but I imagine we will find lead just because of the age of our buildings and the number of samples we're doing.
Not much different than what we see when we start looking at homes in the area.
I wouldn't be too concerned. Water's not the main source of lead exposure for kids. This is an opportunity to also look at the sources that are within your home.
If you start testing, you may find lead in some of your fixtures or plumbing inside your home. The most important piece is that you know about it and you are informed.
Water isn't necessarily the main source of lead poisoning for children. Paint, soil, dust can be other sources. So if you live in an older home, you can get a lead paint test kit from any of the home improvement stores, or if you want to test your water, you can contact Denver Water and they'll provide you with the test kit. But if you are concerned, do discuss it with your pediatrician.